What's up guys, welcome to Wasted Space and we're back in Space Engineers and the map's done, I think. Enough to release at least. So those of you who watched my video earlier on in the week will know I've been working on this kind of Goldeneye, Quake 3, Unreal Tournament sort of deathmatch map. The idea being that I keep making these things at the end of streams, like by taking one of my existing creations and kind of slapping some medbays down. It works terribly, so it was time to make something specifically for the task. And then on top of this, as I was starting all of this, the Engineer's Defense Kit mod gets flagged up to me by its creator Ven, awesome guy, which was perfect. It could not have been any better. Suddenly a huge range of really cool weapons to go alongside it. So that meant that I had to do it kinda seriously. That means we need weapon spawns and proper respawning mechanics and so on. So as you can see in the background here, we've done a fair bit of what I'll loosely call testing, but mostly is just messing around. And I can legitimately say that this is great fun. Probably the most fun I've had in Space Engineers, at least when it comes to big multiplayer, because this can handle 16 people without too much of an issue. So the plan is to dive in, show you a bit around the map, show you a bit where some of the secrets are, and also talk a bit about how I've got some of the mechanics working, stuff like the weapon respawning for example. So what I've got in front of me here might actually be kind of familiar looking to anyone who's done sort of map design in the past, especially in stuff like Half-Life or Unreal. This is kind of what they end up looking like from the outside, just a loose connection of blobs and boxes. But let's dive in and have a little look around, and what I'm actually going to do is switch to my engineer's POV, who is down inside, because the first thing I want to do is turn on the weapon spawning system. Now this is going to be set up and on for you by default when you download the map. This is just because I couldn't be bothered to have it running while I was sitting here talking. But there is a start-stop functionality for it. All I'm going to do is start this timer. And this sort of kicks everything off, and you'll see, hopefully in a second, the spawning system in action as such. And there we go. So it's dropped out. This happens to be a sawn-off shotgun spawn, so we've got sawn-off shotgun and some ammo for it here. And quite a lot of ammo it happens. I could fix that by adjusting the size of the inventory size, so it drops out less at a time. It isn't really much of an issue. There's plenty of ammo in there. So what if there's a bit too much on corpses? They disappear anyway. And what's going to happen is, this is going to sit here for a set length of time. So in the case of the sawn-off, I think it's about a minute. And then the the connectors underneath are going to pick up anything that's left sitting there. And then just after that, it'll spawn a fresh one. The idea being that at no point will you ever have loads of stuff just kicking around the map. But also it acts a lot like a normal weapon spawn, so in this case it's once every minute. But if we go around the corner here, in fact I'm going to turn, normally jetpacks won't be on, this is a no jetpack map, but it's on because I've been working on it. We go around the corner here, we have a completely different spawn, working in the same sort of way. This is for, as you can see, a much bigger, more powerful rifle, and this is on a much longer spawn. And the idea is these are dotted all over the place, so as we drive around, and I'll give you a little tour at the same time, these little spawners are dotted around to act as kind of weapon pickup points. So in this main big room here, which you'll notice, those of you who watched the video, this has been sort of filled out a bit, so there's a nice bit of cover in here, and there's a few secrets in this room too. But you notice in here, we've got a few spawners up the top here, another sawn-off spawn, and then over here, this is the one, there we go, fresh one just spawns as I get here. Over here we've got a sort of slightly more powerful version of an SMG. And as we travel around the map, there are these little spawners all over the place, and you'll slowly start to learn where the weapons are, is the thinking. So up here we've got a Magnum. Is that the Magnum? No, this is the equivalent of the 1911. It's not a 1911, but equivalent of. Down here, these drop down to a sort of lower level, because this was the only way I could find to fit it, but we've got another SMG. I think up here is a shotgun. Yep. And these things are just dotted all over the map, and that's kind of how I've done the weapon spawning. And I think it's relatively elegant. It means you never get this sort of big build-up. Sometimes, because of little bits of lag and so on in the game, you get a few too many ammo come out. But again, there's plenty in the thing. It's not a particularly game-breaking factor. Otherwise, as hopefully you can see, it's not having any effect on my sim speed because these timers aren't running constantly. They're only running like once every minute, once every 3 minutes in some cases. That sort of idea. So that's the weapon spawns, and depending on where you go, you get different types of weapons, more interesting weapons. So we've already done the sort of the two that are up here, which are not bad. But we've also got down over here, this is a pistol spawn, that's another pistol spawn, although a silenced one. And if we come through this direction, there's a few more spawns over here as well. More shotguns, more different types of pistols, more different types of rifles. That's what we got here. This is another one of the sort of slightly more powerful SMGs with the Barrett style flash hider on it. And you can just see the pickup system in action here, so it's about to drop out a fresh one. Sometimes in this case, the weapon timer is longer than the ammo timer, so it's only dropped out ammo. The weapon will come up in a longer length of time, because again, I felt that made some sense as far as sort of how things should be laid out are concerned. So that's the sort of weapon spawning mechanics. Now how about the player spawning mechanics? And these are really simple. So imagine you've got jetpacks turned off, so there is no way I can reach this medbay, and this is how they're all set up. They're all in the ceiling, so you can't interfere with them. And they've all got a sensor on them that just detects nearby players. And this, in practical sense, and I'll try and have some footage up to show you what I'm talking about, means that every time you die, you'll have some options to respawn dotted around the map, but they'll all be in areas where there's nobody there already. And this stops spawn camping. The first version we had ended up being real mad cluster mess around all of the respawn points because everyone was just popping out of the same ones over and over again. Like this, you're forced to be around all over the map. So let's just do a very quick tour. You've seen bits of it, so we've got a spawning area in here. You can come further down, and that way leads back to the main room. Over this direction we have, again, more spawners. So in this case, what's this? Another SMG. Down there, right at the far end, there's a pistol spawn, and this sort of area here connects together and loops round, so you've got kind of a crossover view of what's going on in that other corridor, and then in places you can come down into this middle room, which is all kind of broken up with the assemblers, and perhaps cross over, catch someone sort of unawares. In this room is one of the spawns, and again, a load more sort of just pseudo cover, basically, so that you can come in and out of these rooms. And you can imagine if I came in here, I'm protected from that doorway. I could probably hide from that one as well. I can see this one though. This one here, again, is protected from most directions as it comes into the room, but also can't see most of the doors. So it was trying to make things sort of playable at the same time, make it so that it wasn't just a big constant firefight with no room to hide, no room to go anywhere. So this would have a pistol on it, but at the current point, it's waiting for pistol to spawn. Again, most of them have ammo that spawns quicker than the actual weapon does. There's a few exceptions when they're really, really close to spawns and not very powerful weaponry. Sometimes I do that. You can just see the sensor turning on as we got close to that spawn there. This leads around. I quite like this big tool area. There's normally some big firefights going on here. There's two spawns. There's one in the roof there, and there's one in the roof here. And between the two of them, this area ends up really, really busy. Partly because it's always got two weapons in it, and it's got one of the best weapons, the big shotguns here. And partly because, if we go down this direction, it links up to the big main room lower down. Now the one thing you may notice is there's occasionally cargo crates around that are orange. These are kind of marked up as special ones. They're another place where you might be able to pick up a weapon from. And in some cases, it's really important. So for example, nicked straight from Quake or any of the others, I think, is this little setup here where you have to cross over. Again, there's no jetpacks, remember, so the only way across here is by walking over this bridge in the middle of the room that's got 3 floor levels and everything looks over it. But if you're brave, you can grab the minigun that's in here and go for a laugh, go for a run around. There are also a couple of sort of hidden crates in the room. For example, this one up here. They're a little bit difficult to get to, and the idea is this one's got a grenade launcher in, the only grenade launcher on the map. And I think this one over here, which you have to sort of jump off to get to, this one's got the dual pistols. That sort of idea. That was the silence pistol spawn I mentioned earlier. What other secrets are there? Oh yes, there's one final one where the other one of these fire pits is. Bit of a sort of jump puzzle challenge. So this has got the throwing knives in it. And the way you need to get at it is to sort of, because there's fire down there, is position yourself here, run, jump, and F as you jump over, and then you can get the ballistic knife out. And it's a knife that shoots rather than anything else. So let's nab this and... where is it? These weapons are so cool. I'm going to be doing a spotlight on these at some point, I think. This one, I admit, is probably the weirdest looking one, but these things are really powerful, and they've got quite a nice slow projectile. So I quite like those. There's also a few areas where you can do this, where this is sort of a drop down on top of and into another area where we've got a weapon spawner, but we've also got a lot of spawns in this area, sort of in these tight little rooms. Again, what we got here, another shotgun. A bit more scenery around as well. And if you ever see the crates that are grey or black, they never have anything in them. I've tried to keep it color coded so it's not confusing to anybody. And more SMGs. And I think that gives you a pretty good idea of the map. These red doors, by the way, they're just scenery. You can't open them. Some people have tried to. Some people have tried to grind their way out. I wouldn't advise it. All you do is fall off the map. Anyway, that gives you an idea of looks around the map. Now, I will quickly mention a few of the flaws / questions that came up on the first video. So the first one is painting and lighting. Why haven't I got any lighting? And the answer is because if I turn my lights off, even with a pitch black skybox, notice how we can still see perfectly. Lighting doesn't do anything anymore in Space Engineers, guys. I could light this all over and all it would do is slow down the FPS of the game for people, make it run a bit worse, and then what would we have? We'd just have a map with some unnecessary lights kicking around the place. So that's why there's no lighting. Kind of the similar with the painting. Just keeping everything nice and simple. I've added a little bit here and there just to mean that it's not all flat one colour. But what real paint job would you do on it that would actually have a positive impact on the gameplay rather than anything else? Another element that people have asked about and talked about, and there is one example of this in here, is jump pads and gravity tricks. So this is one of those, and this one does actually work. So if you run up to it, try travelling towards this direction, you'll see that you can get up to this floor, and if you do it in the right direction, you can also get up to that floor. They work. The problem is, and you've got to remember, this is all done in survival, so that you can shoot people and they die. So the problem there is, if I jump off here, now this red one's actually slowing my fall down, so I probably wouldn't have died there. But you can imagine if I run at this thing and do it the wrong direction, say this way, that just killed me hitting the ceiling. That on its own killed me hitting the ceiling, and then when I come back off again, I'm not going to survive this fall. I'm dead again. So that's why I've tried to keep the gravity and so on minimal on this map. You know, this map's big, it's tall, it's not really designed for it, but I will be doing more for sure. I think this has worked nicely enough that I do want to do more of it in different styles and that sort of thing. The final thing I'll mention is to do with this little setup here. Because we're watching one here that works flawlessly, but they don't always, and it's nothing to do with the timers or how I've got it set up. It's just a little bit of inconsistency in the sim speed results in these connectors being open or closed for slightly wrong lengths of time. It's never had an impact in gameplay. So here, for example, it's dropped 2 of everything. It probably won't next time. Next time this cycles round, it'll do something slightly different. It seems to do that sometimes, sometimes not. It doesn't have a big gameplay impact, and I think I've got some ways in which I could improve this system for future. But for now, it does a very good job of providing spawnable weapons. So I think if I go up to here, yeah, for example here, this one's not quite perfect because actually these bits of ammo have gone out of the area of the collector. And yeah, the way to fix this one would be not to have such a tall drop. It doesn't always happen. Equally, you can see it's dropped 2 shotguns for no apparent reason. Will it drop 2 shotguns again the next time? Don't know. Nope, it's going to drop 1 shotgun this time. I haven't found a complete way around that. This one, I actually have to say, looking at this is worse than I remember, so this one might need... this one will probably get a little bit more tweaking before I release the map. So the one you play, I would imagine this connector will probably be down at about this sort of height to try and avoid this from happening. You'll notice a lot of the connectors are actually sideways in the walls, and these are the more reliable ones. The ones that fall, don't know why, they seem a bit less reliable, doesn't make any sense. There you go, that's the only flaw so far, and as I've mentioned, it's not a flaw that interrupts gameplay, because in the end, all it tends to do is mean that there's more ammo around than there should be, rather than less. The final thing I've got to mention is after 15 or so minutes of gameplay, where you've got 16 people in the server, this starts to happen. So you go into goopy super duper slow-mo mode. This is because there's corpses everywhere, there's items everywhere, there doesn't seem to be a way of fixing that because it's not included in trash removal. All you can really do is restart the map after 15 minutes of play, and when you restart it up, it'll be clean, it'll already be running, off you go, play some more. So there you go guys, hope you enjoyed that. It's pretty good fun. Like, I can legitimately say I've had more fun than this, even than doing the dogfighting with the glaives and the broadswords. More fun than most of the other projects I've done, and it's the only one where I've ever been able to get 16 people in a game and not have this issue where everyone's disconnecting and it's laggy and desynced and weird. So I'd recommend you give it a try. I'd recommend you also get hold of the Engineer's Defense Kit. I'll probably be doing a spotlight on it very soon, but that mod is amazing, and every time I load it up, he's added like 4 more guns to it. So really do go and give that a check, give the guy some love. And of course, if you enjoyed this video, guys, please hit like, please hit subscribe. It really does help me in the channel out. And if you didn't like this video, obviously hit that dislike button, but please leave me a comment. Tell me how I can improve, what I can do a bit better. So thanks a lot for watching, guys, and I'll catch you next time. Oh, and in case you guys want to see what this map's really like, cue the gameplay. Work. Come on, yes. Yeah, it just spits out as much rounds as the good connector can do, so there's shitloads of rounds in them as well. It doesn't really matter. For some reason we can carry that much. I think maybe if I was to turn the inventory sizes down, it would work. Ow! I think they quite clearly did not fix the muzzle flash. I don't think anyone is going to claim at this point that they fixed the muzzle flash.